Hi everyone, welcome back to Lawyers Have Souls 2. Today we are going to talk about being truly who you are. She's done everything without shrinking, without apologizing, and without losing herself in the process.
I am an attorney. I'm an entrepreneur. My undergraduate degree is a Bachelor of Fine Arts. How does that transfer to law school? Well, I initially said, no, I'm not doing that. Then my senior year in undergraduate school, I said, you know what? I don't think I'm done with my education yet. My creative background is what helps me do so well. Tax and intellectual property law, especially with trademarks and copyrights, I come across as very soft. I don't want to release that in order to other attorneys will consider to be successful. My clients like it. That's part of the reason why they stay with my firm. People will intimidate you because they know you belong there.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Lawyers Have Souls 2. Happy New Year! This is going to be our first episode for 2026. Thank you for riding with us for 2025. We had 13 episodes and I'm super excited for this year. My word for 2026 is abundance. And I got super lucky because this guest is all about that. So today we are going to talk about being truly who you are. This person really embodies what it really means to fully live their life. I mean, the woman is amazing. She's done everything without shrinking, without apologizing, and without losing herself in the process. Dominique is her name. She's going to introduce herself. But in this conversation, we are going to talk about identity, confidence, and the courage to show up as who you are and your whole self, as I call it. So if you're a lawyer, you're a creative, you an entrepreneur, or someone who simply wants to live their life and do things outside the box, I think that's what I like about this guest. You're gonna hear her. She's done some things that I was like, oh my gosh, that's interesting. So let's lean into it. Dominique, thank you so much for being here. Can you please introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Dominique Young, and I am an attorney. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creative, as you stated before, and I'm just a woman that is going out there and living her life to the best that she can and uh, going forward with whatever goals that I have and that I've set for myself that the Lord has placed on my heart. So that's me in a nutshell.
I love it. Now, before we get into it, how did you get into law school? Why law?
Oh, well, I get asked this question a lot because my undergraduate degree is a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and my major was arts management with a concentration in art and design. So a lot of people are wondering, like, how does that transfer to law school? Well, the whole reason I was majoring in arts management was because I wanted to get into fashion, owning my own fashion boutique store. So my aunt told me, she's like, if you are going to go into business for yourself, you need to know business laws for yourself. So you need to go to law school. So I initially said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm doing my 4 years and that's going to be that's going to be it. And then my senior year in undergraduate school, I said, you know what? I don't think I'm done with my education yet. So I'm going to go ahead on and apply and go to law school. And so I took a year off to take my LSAT and I was accepted into law school and here we are.
The rest is her story. That's good. So you have it all. You hold a BFA, a JD, an LMN, and that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing to have. Um, how did your creative background shape your decision to do what you do now?
Actually, my creative background is what helps me do so well within my current field because I practice tax and intellectual property law, especially with trademarks and copyrights. Having that arts background helps me understand the artists, clients that I have to be able to assist them in understanding, what we need to change about this trademark, why this trademark is going to work, making them understand the copyright laws, understanding, their financial background and why they need a licensing agreement, communicating to them why they need a licensing agreement. So my education is essentially building upon that bachelor's degree that I earned because even in um, my major for arts management, I had to take legal environment of business. And so from there, we go into law school where I take a lot of business courses along with some other courses. And then my LLM, which is a Master of Laws, is in business transactions, where I also took intellectual property courses and tax courses as well. So my education has built upon one another in a direction that I wanted it to go, to be able to service, artists and creatives, fashion designers, things like that in the legal capacity.
Nice, nice. We have a few things in common, but we'll talk about that once we get there. Um, you've been recognized as an elite lawyers and who's who, which is a great thing to have. Congrats on that. How do you personally define success in law?
The way that I define success in law is when a client comes back to me and says, thank you. Like when they come back and they say, you know what, Dominique, thank you so much. I really needed your help. This is really helping me out. I I don't think that I would have been able to receive the same results without your assistance. Or even when a judge just gives you, when you do something like you make an objection, or when you do a closing statement, or when you make a particular argument in court and a judge gives you the nod of approval, like that to me, that to me is success.
That's great. Tax law, Dominic.
Yeah.
Ha- Listen, I that was the hardest class for me in law school. And interestingly, I did well. And I remember my professor, I think his name is Professor Patrick Tolman, I think. But I remember him telling me, like, hey, Winnie, like, what do you think about getting into tax law? It's very competitive, but it's very lucrative. And I said, listen, I don't know. And now, like, I regret it a little bit because, I'm the type of person, I will try everything and anything before I say no. But I was like, no, I was scared, if I'm being honest.
Well, I actually didn't even take tax law until my LLM program, and it was a required course. We were required to take personal income tax, and it was hard. Like, personal income tax was a very difficult course. It is not like, doing taxes or filing your own taxes. It's completely different. But at the end of that course, I was like, you know what? That was a really difficult course, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Like, I think I want to go further. I want to take more tax courses. And so going into my second year of my LLM program, I focused mainly on taking more tax courses so that I could understand the business side of taxes, like what businesses need to know under the tax law, under the IRS, because it also coincided with some of my environmental law classes as well because of the tax credits and things you can receive. So even though it was very, very difficult, I said, you know what, I want to take more tax courses.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe your experience was different, but we are both Black women. I think that what really, I mean, I was scared essentially, but the people that were in my circle at the time, they're no longer in my circle, by the way. They were like, well, I mean, this is more for like the white men. I mean, do you see any Black women in that area? And I was like, well, I think that's why I want to do it. And there was not a lot of encouragement in that. And surprisingly, my professor was a white man. And he was very, like, he really pushed me. And he's like, you sure you don't want to at least try it? And I said, no, I don't. This is what everyone tells me. And he's like, oh, so now you're listening to people. He's like, the Winnie I know doesn't listen to anybody. But because they were people that I trusted, I was just like, I don't think that's for me. But good for you. Good for you. I am so happy and so proud that you decided to go that route. Now, how is it being a woman and bringing yourself into the profession shape the way you practice in your law firm?
Well, I will say that when I'm going against other lawyers, being a litigation attorney, also, uh, I come across as very soft. I come across as someone that, is may not do so well for her client because I'm not exactly combative or aggressive. I'm more assertive, but I do my best to maintain my femininity because I believe that that is a part of me and a part of who I am. And I don't want to release that in order to be what other attorneys would consider to be successful. However, when it comes to my clients like it. That's part of the reason why they stay with my firm, because I do come to them, as a woman, as a sister, as a daughter, as a mother, and saying, hey, this is what we need to do. Or, we need to relook at this. And having this type of personality that I have, I think is what more people want to have from their attorney. They don't want, they're looking for someone that they can relate to. And so not every person is going to relate to what is, the poster board attorney. Some people want someone that they can actually open up to and talk to, because that is, the attorney-client privilege. We need that so that we can best advocate for our client. So I think that, in when I'm going in court, when I'm going against opposing counsel, it can come across as weak. But when I am counseling my client, it comes across as someone that I can relate to.
Yeah, it is definitely a strength than it is a weakness. A weakness. I think that it's just society. They make you feel like you have to be this way, you have to be that way, and for me, I see that as a strength. And unfortunately, a lot of women, we kind of get carried away with that, right? We're trying to just fit in and just do what everybody else is saying, but that's your power. That's your power. Being able to connect with people is very powerful, because believe it or not, some people are just, they can't get there. They can get there. And who are you serving? You are serving your clients. So if you can't connect with them, who cares if you're the best litigator in the world, right? So I'm so glad that you have that. Now let's get into this more interesting thing. You've competed in Miss USA, the state preliminaries, a space that, I don't know a lot of attorneys who do that. Um, what has, this experience taught you about confidence, discipline, and visibility?
Well, for the confidence and the discipline part, it takes a lot of confidence and to get on that stage in a bathing suit. And 9 times out of 10, you are in a two-piece bathing suit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and those competitions are recorded, and someone is grading you based off of how your physical stature, how you look. So it takes a lot of confidence to get on stage and present yourself to an audience in that auditorium, and also like whoever else is watching, and saying, hey, I am competing to represent this state in the national competition. I want you to pick me. The discipline comes in, there are days when you go to work and you're tired, but you still have to come back to the house and you have to get in your workout. You have to continue to eat right. You have to continue to drink your water. You have to continue to practice and exercise, because it's going to be reflective on that stage and in front of those judges. So in regards to like the confidence and diligence, all those things essentially come from, that tenacity that is built up in you in law school. Like in law school, you can't just give up, or else, you'll be dismissed, right? So, and you are going to get beat down, because in law school, you were smart in undergrad, you were smart in high school. In law school, everybody's smart. Everybody did well in undergrad and in high school. So, you have to dig deeper, even more deeper, in who you are and know why you are in law school. Same reason that, for a pageant, when you get to, the Miss USA state level or a lot of other different pageants, those women have backgrounds that are similar to yours. They're fighting the same way that you're fighting, for that title. So it is actually very similar in the confidence and the discipline that you have to continue to exude within yourself in order to present yourself well on that stage and to get back up and try again.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because, like I said, we have similar backgrounds and just similar but different. I came here as a teenager from Haiti. I did modeling and acting for about 4 years. I did one pageant. Uh, People don't watch this and they're like, "This girl." because they learn something new every day. Even my friends, they will comment. They're like, "I watch your podcast. You talk about this. When was this?" So I did one pageant. I did Teen Miss US. I mean Teen USA, Teen Miss USA for Miami. I made the top 10. But let me tell you, that's why I say to people, I say, listen, you only have to do one thing. Sometimes you think you know something until you actually in it. I remember the audition, there was like 5,000 girls. And I mean, you look around, everybody's beautiful, drop dead gorgeous, and you hear them talk. Everybody's smart, and to just being able, I made it to the top 10, and I said, "Listen, I'm good with that." It was something I wanted to do as an experience. It's not something, but I definitely learned a lot with the discipline, with just I think the lesson that I learned, and maybe you can attest to that, and just being comfortable in who you are. I think that is super important because it's very intimidating. If you get there and you start looking around and you're like, oh my gosh, you're not even gonna take a chance. You're not even going to try because you're already thinking, but it's that confidence, but just being comfortable. I think once you're comfortable in who you are and how you show up, then that's when the confidence and everything else comes in. So that was my experience, but kudos to you for going all the way and still want to pursue this. So let's talk about this. You said that pageantry is something that you want to pursue. That's something that you're probably still doing. Tell us a little bit about that.
So actually, pageantry probably started in me when I was really young. I started off being a pre-debutante in a social club in Birmingham, and I went all the way through the system to being like a debutante, and then the next level after a debutante is to be a spinster. But
I don't know anything about that.
so that's kind of where it started, and I also competed in high school and college, and then right after college. And so after college, I went to law school. And I aged out of a lot of pageant systems for, the Miss category. However, recently, Miss USA opened their age requirements to anyone. So I took it on head on and I just jumped right in and I said, I'm going to do it. I don't know how long they're going to keep it open for everybody, for all age groups. So I'm just going to go full steam ahead and just try. And it was an eye-opening experience for me because it was a lot different than all the other pageants that I had competed in before. However, that and sometimes the experiences, they will deter you and it'll kind of like break you down because you don't understand the dynamics, I guess, like behind the scene. So it's a lot to go through and it can be overwhelming. However, at the end of the day, because I just finished the pageant this past weekend.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I was exhausted this week. So I just finished the pageant this past weekend and the experience was different, but a lot of things were similar. So at the end of it, I was still asking my question, Dominic, why are you putting yourself through this? And then once I rested and got back home and got back into my element, I was like, you know what? I'm not done. I didn't reach the goal that I wanted. Therefore, I'm going to continue to do this until they say, no, don't do this anymore. So I don't know when I'm going to get that no, don't do this anymore. But I think that, that's kind of like your first year in law school where you are constantly like relearning how to learn because you
Yes.
learn the law differently
Yes.
than the way that you learn your studies in undergrad or, something like that. So that is part, I guess, of the process of me trying to because, a lot of times, like even in law school, there was one point where I was on the phone crying with the family member saying, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I want to come home. I don't want to do this anymore. And so the family member was like, okay, well, just come on home. I'm going to tell you, like, I had the same experience. I'm going to tell you, like my mom told me, just come on home. And when I got off the phone call, I was like, you know what? I don't want to quit. I want to keep going. I wound up graduating. So, So yeah, it's kind of like that. When you're in the moment, you're frustrated, you're stressed out, I get overstimulated easier now, so I know what I have to do in order to get my bearings again. But, once that competition was over, I was like, "You know what? I'm not done. I want to try again. I want to keep going," you know? So, like, you have to, really understand the reason why you're doing it and what your goal is in order for you to continue to do it. Because even in law, like, litigation is hard work. It's really hard work, and sometimes you will not get the results that you want, and your client will be upset with you, but that was the best result that you could get for your client at that point in time, and they're still gonna be
Amen.
happy. And so you will feel as if, "Why am I even doing this? Like, why do I put myself through this every single day?" But then you rest, and then you reflect on the reason why you did this in the first place, and you're like, "You know what? I can keep going. I can keep trying. This isn't going to be the last one. I have, other things and other clients that are happy with my work. And I'm going to continue to move forward in the direction the Lord has me to go." So that's what you essentially have to do. You need to take a breath. You need to take not breath, a rest. Take a rest, take a step back, and just look at the situation, overall, and make the determination as to, is this going to be the end, or did you just need a break?
Yeah. You talk about a lot about resting. What does rest look like to you?
Rest to me sometimes is quiet. Sometimes rest is sleeping a lot. And then sometimes rest is just getting back in my normal routine, you know, knowing, what I like, my schedule that I like, uh, what I like to do. Getting back into my routine helps me, you know, recalibrate to continue to go forward. A lot of times it is, sitting in quiet. Sometimes I just need quiet. I don't need the extra TV. I don't need um, anyone around me. I just need to just have some quiet and relax to sleep. Um, in certain situations where I'm stressed, I need to go and play volleyball, or I need to go for a walk. I need to do something to get those endorphins going, or just to get the stress out. So rest can take different forms. It's whatever's going to get me back, going again, get my system back recalibrated and going again. And that to me is rest. It can be literal rest where I'm laying down doing nothing, or it could be active rest where I have to get up and exert out this energy.
Yeah, that's good. With everything you have going on, how do you stay grounded when life get overwhelming?
I take a day of rest every week.
Good for you.
It's something that I found that I need to do. Like, I need to have something that will rest my mind every day. And I started that in law school. And people looked at me like I was crazy because
Listen, you could have saved me a lot of pain, okay? Cause I'm learning now because you know how they say if you don't listen to your body, it's gonna force you to. I've been in many situations where my body is like, ma'am, I've been talking to you. You're not listening now. Down. That's great.
and actually that did happen to me where my body was like, "You know what? No. We're in malfunction status right about now, so you're just gonna have to take a break. And until, you can learn to take a rest when we need to take a rest, then, it's just not going to work." So I did have to take a break. I did have to take a step back, and it took a while. And even now I'm still trying to get back to who I was before, but I know that I'm probably not gonna get back to that. And so but even in law school, like, I would take Sundays off. I wouldn't study. I wouldn't do any, law school work on Sundays at all. I would get all of my law school studying, coursework, whatever, Monday through Saturday. Once Sunday came, it was my day, and I didn't do it. And even when I did bar prep, for both times, when I studied for the Florida bar and when I studied for the Georgia bar, I would take Sundays off. And I would not study on Sundays. Did not matter what I had on Monday. I would take Sunday off, and it worked out for me. So
You could have saved my life, okay? You could have been like a pivotal person in my life. I do not rest. I, as a matter of fact, I I didn't pass the bar the first time that I took because I just went like I studied straight for. I graduated law school early,
Mhm.
have time to study, and I studied for 6 months straight with no break, none. I mean, we're talking 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, nothing. That's all I did. I didn't sleep. I wasn't eating well. And, I fell the ball by one point. And I remember, uh, I remember I got a mentor and she said, ma'am, you're doing this wrong. And I said, what do you mean? She's like, you're supposed to rest. I said, I was? She's like, yeah, you're supposed to take a day off. I said, are you sure? She said, yes. She's like, yes, Winnie, you're supposed to take time off. And I said, "Oh." And it's funny because in my mind, I didn't think that was a thing. I was like, if I have to pass this test, I cannot take breaks.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
know a lot of people that did that even in law school.
Yeah. Yeah. And same thing. I did the same thing in law school. I just go and go and go and go and go. But as I get older now I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I think you could be a positive change in my life. Okay. I'm not there yet. Maybe I should, whenever I think about just going and go, I'm like, okay, I should just think about Dominic. You need to take a day off. You need to rest. My big problem right now is sleep. If I lay down for 30 minutes, I'm not asleep. I'm going to wake up and find something to do. And that's not good. That's not good. But anyways, moving on, you're doing great so far. I think you're helping me more than you're helping, everyone else watching. But, you talk about your dream of becoming a pageant director. What does that represent to you?
I think it brings a fresh perspective to whatever system I choose to be a pageant director. I I want to go through the process first to see the ins and outs and to actually see,
What's missing?
exactly if anything needs to be changed at all. And there are certain systems where they don't have a state level. They don't have a state level competition. You go straight, you're appointed, and you go to the national competition. So there's a lot of opportunity out there to be a pageant director. However, I feel like I have something to give to the pageant world with my background and with my upbringing that I think will be a fresh perspective to the pageant industry. And to me, it coincides a lot with business, coincides a lot with intellectual property, with contracts, it and a lot with fashion, makeup artists, public relations, dealing with individuals. I think it is a natural extension of my background to venture into this at the appropriate time and just have that fresh perspective on being a pageant director.
Yeah. What advice would you give young Black girls or women who are interested in getting into pageantry?
I would say do not be intimidated. Do not be intimidated, and you do not have to conform to what you see because, or what people say you need to be and what you need to do, because there are many Miss USAs that do not fit the norm. Deshauna Barber was Miss USA. She was in the Army. She had natural hair. She was shorter. She was dark brown skin.
Yes.
And, everyone remembers her. And then the Miss USA after her was from the DMV area. She wore her natural curls for the national pageant, and she was a chemist. So, and then you also have many other women that have come through, and they don't all look the same. They don't all act the same. They don't have the same background. So, putting a national title in a box is not what you want to do. What you want, to me, it seems that you need to just be the most polished and the most polished representation of yourself. And I mean, I can't really say what is going to win. I don't know what's going to win.
Yeah.
I don't know, what a particular pageant director is going to want. But what I'm saying is if you listen to everybody, you will change every single time that you listen to someone, and you will wind up not knowing who you are anymore.
Yeah.
So you if you're going to go into pageantry, you need to remain grounded in who you are. And I believe that you need to have a strong faith foundation before you even go into it, because you have a lot of people telling you that you're not this, you're too much of this, you're not good enough, you'll never make it. And whether it's coming from other competitors or coming from some competitors' parents or whomever, you'll get a lot of people telling you who you aren't. So you need to know who you are before you even go into it, or else you won't know who you are at the end.
Yeah, that's powerful. And that's the reality of it. When you think about legacy, what does that mean to you and what do you want yours to look like?
I want my legacy to be someone that knew who she was and just lived her life unabandoned. She didn't um she didn't settle. She went forward for what she wanted. And even if I do not attain everything that I want, at least I tried, you know? At least I gave it a full faith effort. And that just means that God did not have that for me. He had something else for me. And I have to rest in that, in knowing that um, we want our hearts to be aligned with what God's plan for us, and that only comes through those quiet moments with the Lord to understand what His plan is for our life. And so sometimes God has us going through things and we don't understand why. But then once we get through it, we're like, oh, okay, now I understand. You were preparing me for something better. You were preparing me for this. So you have to just make sure that you understand that God may even give you goals and say, hey, I want you to go for this. And then He'll change it and say, no, this is what I need you to do. And you just need to trust God in everything, and knowing that He is always going to be there for you. He is going to be walking there beside you the entire time. And when it gets too heavy, just understand that the Lord is probably carrying a burden heavier than what you have, to make sure that you can walk with your burden, you know? So I think that is uh, what I want people to know about me and my legacy, is that I'm going to go for it. And um, I'm going to live my life unabandoned in accordance with what I feel like what God has laid on my heart. So,
Yes, yes, I love it. Um, what's the best advice you receive uh, when it comes to business? Because there's a business part and everything that we do.
the best, I think the best advice that I have ever received was from one of my old friends. From her mom said, "You don't let anybody run you out of anywhere."
Yeah.
And she said a roller too. She said, "You don't let nobody run you out of nowhere." So, because people will intimidate you, not because they are better than you, or they don't feel like you belong there, but because they know you belong there.
Yes.
They know that you are better, and they don't want you there because you are getting in their way. So, so I would say that advice, because people will intimidate you, they will try and beat you down, they will try and get you taken out of situations, and hopefully you will walk yourself out of those situations. But if that is where you want to be, if that is what want to do, you need to go ahead and do it and go full force with it and be excellent at it at the same time.
Yes. Listen, I don't know who your friend's mom is, but I love her. That is a great advice. That is a great advice. And again, I think that especially for women of color, that's always a thing. Somebody's always trying to run you out of some room, somewhere. So that's super important. I have a daughter, she's 13. That is something that I tell her. And it's funny. Like I say it just in, just joking, But I really want her to take it serious because it is really a thing. It's really a thing. Um, let's shift gear a little bit. What do you do for fun?
For fun. Well, right now I watch a lot of sports because it's the end of football season, playoffs. So I've been watching a lot of football. That takes a lot of time. I like to read. Like libraries and bookstores are one of my favorite places to go. I do like to shop. I love playing volleyball. It's an easy way for me to like after a long day, if I can go play a game of pickup volleyball and just like get my stress out on that ball like that. That's wonderful. And then, that's one of the ways I'm really shy. I'm really introverted. I know it doesn't seem that way, but I'm really introverted. And so that gives me a way to meet people, and things like that. So I also like doing Pilates. I like doing Pilates a
Oh,
lot and just
Dominic,
stretching.
you're making me look bad. Like, I'm like, oh, she plays sports. But that's amazing. I'm so happy that you were able to do these things. Um, it sounds like you have an outlet. And I always tell people, I'm like, it's good that you have to have an outlet. Like, especially I mean, in the legal profession, things get rough. You need to have something outside of that. And that's one of the reason why I have this podcast. Like, I meet people and I get super happy when they're like, hey, listen, I go out dancing salsa every Saturday, or I do this, because it's important. Like, you can't just be lawyer all the time. There has to be something else that you do that is totally different from, being in this crazy. It's not for everybody. It's a very tough profession to be in, and um and of course it varies from the type of law you practice. Like I said, tax law is not for the weak. It is not for the weak. So I'm so glad that you have that. Now let's talk about fashion a little bit. How would you describe your sense of style?
My sense of style is more elevated now. It's professional and conservative. I don't really show too much skin. A lot of people are like, why don't you show your leg? Why don't you show them? I'm like, no. Sometimes I'll do it. With the right, it's usually like if legs are exposed, like the top part is covered up. I'm showing a little more skin on top, and the bottom part's
Balance.
a little bit more. But I would say my style is more just like an elevated, professional look. That's what I would say. And other than that, it's really relaxed. Like if you were to see me walking around the streets, I'm probably having on jeans and a t-shirt kind of girl, and my hair is probably pulled back in a ponytail. But when I have to get dressed up, I would say that it's more like an elevated professional look. That's what I would say.
Alrighty, perfect. I love that. Favorite store to shop?
Favorite stores to shop. I really like H&M. Um, H&M's a good one. I like Zara a lot. Whew. Let's see. That was a hard question. It really was a hard question.
Let me just say this. I think people like you and I'll put myself in there. Um, you know, you don't really have like the store you shop more because it's easier to find the things you need. Like I think H&M and Zara, like for someone like you could find something professional, you can find something relaxed, like all there, still good material, still cute. But
Yeah, I would also say Express and BCBG because I did work at Express and I love working at Express, and the reason I worked at Express, the reason I worked at Express because I wanted the discount. Same goes for BCBG. Next is Zaria. I worked there because I liked the clothes and I wanted to get the discount.
oh my, so yeah, we do have quite a bit in common. So I worked in retail, college all the way to grad school, and then law school. I didn't work, but I worked at Express for 6 years as a store manager. It was a job that I really took. I'm like, okay, I'm here all the time shopping, so I might as well, and I really enjoy it. Fashion wise, I don't like to be in a box. Like, I don't like, oh, you need to wear this, you need to wear that. And like I share with you, because I wore black, the black was really like, I worked at Victoria's Secret before Express. And it was back then, it was just everybody wore black. And once I left there, I love colors. I always try to find a little color just to put. If I go to court, I'm still professional, but instead of wearing like just a plain white shirt, I wear like a yellow shirt, like an orange. Nothing too crazy, but I put a little color. So that's really me. So this podcast obviously is called Lawyers Have Souls Too. If you were to finish this sentence, lawyers have souls too, because what would be your answer?
Because we were humans before we were attorneys.
Yes, I definitely agree. Now is the time for you to tell us how to find you, how to follow you, and everything that you do. I know you are licensed in Florida, and is it Georgia?
Correct.
Was there
And
another
I'm also
state?
licensed in
Texas?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Okay, I thought it was
No,
Texas.
I'm licensed in 3 states:
Okay.
Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee.
Okay. And tell us again what kind of law you practice and how do we find you?
I practice intellectual property law, only trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets, tax law, and then business law as well, and also have estate planning as well. You can find me at www.dominiqueyounglaw.com, and Dominique is spelled Dominique. I have a profile on Facebook, which will be Dominique Young Law PC. On Instagram, it's at Dominique Young Law. And then on TikTok, which would be the Fempreneur Lawyer. It's the period fempreneur.lawyer. I believe is what it is.
You must have send that to me because we have to put the link and we have to write it down in the about so people can find you.
And then on YouTube as well. My firm has YouTube channel and it's Dominique Young Law PC, I believe. So I'll send you the information.
Perfect. Dominic, I can talk to you all day, but this is what I will say. I would say that I like to do this because every time I talk to somebody, I learn something new. And it's on, different side. Like I learned something new about business. I learned something new about myself. I will tell you what I learned today, and thank you for that, is the resting part. Like, listen, I think it's better coming from, because sometimes I would tell myself, like, every attorney is busy, like we are all busy, nobody's resting. That's what I tell myself sometimes. But it's always good to talk to somebody and for you to say, with everything that you do, if you can rest for a day, listen, I can rest too. Okay? If you can do it, I can do it too. And the other thing that I would say is that I wish you all the success in the world. I think that, again, as a Black woman, being able to do this thing and to enter these rooms is very inspiring. And you can aspire a lot of people to do this and not to put any limit. I think there's so much limit. Well, if you're an attorney, you can do this. Well, if you do this, you can do that. And everybody's trying to put you in a box. And I think it's important for people to see that. And most importantly, as you know, to have that. We were probably the same age, or maybe I'm older, whichever. But if I had met someone like you, I think my life would have been slightly different. So I'm doing this for anybody who's watching and who's thinking about, well, can I do this and do that at the same time? For them to know it's possible. And you can still do it. You can still be a professional attorney and go on the pageant and wear a bathing suit. That doesn't make you, unprofessional, because those are two different worlds, and it's all about how you present yourself. And I think the other thing that I learned also is that, you don't have to be tough to be a good attorney. You don't have to be mean or rude and, for you to be able to do your job. You can still be feminine and be soft and be caring and be compassionate. And still do a good job and still be successful. So thank you for that. So I am going to close this out. And then obviously, if you need Dominique's information, I'm so glad she's licensed in Florida. Like, I'm so happy. I am so happy because people come to me all the time, especially for trademark. In my community, that's something that I started to talk about a lot. I'm Haitian, born and raised. So this is something that my community just sort of find out about, right? And unfortunately for us, we don't have a lot of attorneys in my community that do that. And as attorney, people come to you for everything.
Right.
I'm like, I do immigration. People come to me, well, somebody just killed somebody. They need representation. I'm like, I don't do that. Or, hey, this and that happened. And I mean, they just assume you do everything. And that's why it's good to have different people and your network that do these things that you trust that you can send people to. So I'm so glad. Like that was the first thing I saw, and I jumped a little bit. I was like, yes, she's licensed in Florida. Yes. So, as we wrap up today's conversation, I hope that you walking away with the reminder that you don't have to shrink yourself to succeed. You don't have to choose between being excellent and being authentic. You don't have to choose between being a lawyer or being, and a pageant. Dominic journey show us that law can be a calling and a platform, not a cage. She's an attorney. She didn't just stay there. She branched out and do what made her happy. And that helped her cultivate confidence, her identity, and have a purpose, which I think is super important. Dominic is somebody that I will call a triple threat. This woman is beautiful because that's the first thing you guys see. Like you log in, you're like, oh, she's really cute. She's beautiful. She is intelligent. And she is a woman of faith. If you know that is something powerful. That is probably the most powerful thing that you can have as a human being. Just your faith, whatever that is for you. Thank you for spending time with us. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, remember that lawyers have souls too, and you should take care of yours. And do not put yourself in a box. I'm going to let Dominique close this off for me and just share with us that super important advice that she got from her friend's mom. And please say her name if you remember who she is and say her name. So Dominique, what did your friend's mom tell you?
Mama Lay told me, you don't let anyone run you out of nowhere.
All right. And that's what we're going to leave you guys with. Don't let anyone run you out of nowhere. If you want to do something, go for it. Obviously, be disciplined, be confident, and do you. Thank you, Dominic. Until next time, I will see you all. Thank you so much. And this was Lawyers Have Souls too.